meaningful education. We then made the decision that we would prioritize our educators, that we would move them up at that time to a higher priority group than any other state. And at the moment, we are on pace to be the fastest state to vaccinate our educators anywhere in the country, and I don't think it will be close. I think what we foresaw is that the safest way to expand in-person opportunities or to provide them maybe for the first time in a district, the safest thing that we could do is vaccinate all of our school personnel. Since then, the CDC and others have moved that way, and other states are following our lead, elevating teachers up. So today I'm issuing a new executive order that recognizes that we have that we are in the process of getting all our educators vaccinated and what that means. Today's executive order recommends, because this is still a local decision, school boards are elected all over the Commonwealth, and it's important that it's a local decision. So we're recommending to all school districts, including private schools, to offer or expand some form of in-person instructional opportunities beginning at either March 1st or, if it is later, 7 days after the educators have received their second dose of the vaccine. In other words, if this is based on everybody getting the vaccine, we have to make sure they've gotten that second dose and have at least 7 days. Now, there are some school districts that are opting for 14 days after that second dose, and that's based on certainly some science that's out there, and that is entirely understandable and certainly defensible. If school district personnel have not finished their first vaccine series as of March 1st, again, it pushes that date out just on our recommendation. Now, I believe all but about 6 districts, if I have my numbers right, across Kentucky already have some form of in-person instruction. We hope that this gives either the opportunity to look at where that is and potentially expand it, or to feel safer within it, or to offer it for the first time. So it's 6 school districts. 165 of 171 have resumed some form of in-person instruction. Of the 165 districts that have done so, at least 38 have all students in person 4 or 5 days a week. 103 have a hybrid schedule, and 17 have elementary students in person 4 or 5 days a week, and then a hybrid for middle school and high school. Now, while this is exciting news, remember, there is or can be real concern on behalf of those that walk into a building where there's going to be a lot of people. So the executive order sets out some requirements, but also asks for districts to consider a number of different things that need to be considered to have the safe environment that all of our educators and all of our students deserve. So first, it requires that students, educators, and staff wear face coverings while indoors, on school grounds, or in school transportations. And we go through auditoriums and everything else. This is universal masking all the time, virtually no exceptions. This is one of the number one ways that we can keep everybody in that school safe. And it's going to be incredibly important, especially for districts that may go back for the first time, that this is strictly enforced, as all of the studies that suggest there is low transmission are of districts that had and enforced a strong mask mandate. Additionally, I want to recognize the challenges that some districts face and the considerations that they can and should make, and that all can and should consider when looking at this. First is especially where you can't achieve distance. And while 6 feet isn't always set out, it is a good rule to try to achieve. Where that can't be done, you need to look at reducing density in classrooms, halls, school buses, and other areas where there is a heightened risk. Implementing cohorts or pods of students. In other words, you shouldn't be switching classes during the day with a lot of others, going out into the hall and coming back in, having lunch with people outside of your class. That's because if somebody has it, you can almost put a bubble around who might have to quarantine. evaluating buildings, ventilation systems, and considering safety procedures and/or density reductions in facilities with poor ventilation. Every district must continue to provide that meaningful virtual option for any student that wants it. And it cannot discriminate against them in terms of courses that they can take, and it cannot negatively impact their student achievement. In addition, this order means that the color-coded chart with regards to school decisions will be discontinued as of March the 1st, but we're going to continue to post it to show where community spread is high. That should impact decisions made by a community and by a school in terms of extracurriculars or those additional things that might bring in that community spread from the community itself. More information on safety expectations and best practices can be found at the Healthy at School website, and that flagship document is mandatory and all of its practices in there. Now, I know that this is a bigger challenge on some school districts other than others. I went to the second largest school district here in Kentucky. I loved my high school, but it was a building where we packed 2,000 students in with the tiniest windows I think I've ever seen in a building. And other than a nice entrance, it looks the same inside. That is a building that they're going to have to really consider how to reduce density. 5 day a week, every student, you couldn't achieve what you need to achieve there. And so we need to be understanding that while we are encouraging and we believe that we can have a safe resumption of in-person learning, in our larger school districts, it is a challenge that requires what is already happening, a lot of communication. I know there are committees, even in specific schools, where our educators and administration are having a good dialogue. And it requires making tough decisions about how to get to the point where you're not only safer because you've been vaccinated, but you've put the right steps into place. But I believe with what we now know, with good practices in making these tough decisions, which may be coming back as a hybrid and not everybody 5 days a week, that specific plans can be achieved where everybody can ultimately feel as comfortable as we can in the midst of COVID. But at the end of the day, we didn't vaccinate our educators for nothing. We did this because we all know that we need some form of in-person learning. It's got to be safe. That's got to include a lot of people in putting together what it'll look like. But we believe that post-second dose, we are moving and must move in that direction. And now the educator that will correct, again, everything that I missed, our Lieutenant Governor, Jacqueline Coleman.
Thank you, Governor. I brought my red pen, but I don't think I need it yet. So good job. Yeah. So as the governor said, getting our kids back into in-person learning safely has remained a top priority of our administration for the last year. And since the beginning of the pandemic, we have worked with the Department of Education to provide clear and up-to-date guidance that schools and districts can use to navigate these unprecedented challenges that none of us have ever gone through before. From day one, our top priority has been to keep students and teachers and school staff and all of their families in our community safe. As the pandemic continues to evolve, necessary changes to teaching, learning, and operational guidance must evolve with it. Kentucky continues to be the national leader in vaccinating our school personnel. So as we prepare for a return to in-person learning in all schools, the Department of Education has issued new guidance to help schools and districts develop their plans for a safe return to school buildings and to classrooms. Yesterday, the department issued a comprehensive 136-page manual that combines every piece of guidance to schools and districts that has been issued since nearly a year ago. This document, called KDE COVID-19 Guidance 2.0, presents the most up-to-date guidance for teaching, learning, and operating schools and districts during the pandemic. I'm here today to hit some of those highlights. So first of all, we have school-related student travel. This section details the factors that need to be taken into consideration when planning any school-related student travel, with the exception of athletics, because the Kentucky High School Athletic Association has already issued guidance on travel for sports. Administering spring state testing. As always, there is a lot of conversation around state assessments. So let me say unequivocally that it is more important than ever for us to prioritize teaching and caring for the whole child. KDE is still preparing for an in-person administration of state assessments, as the U.S. Department of Education has not currently granted waivers on statewide testing for public school students. They will continue to provide up-to-date information on assessments as they know more. And let me say that I am proud to work alongside KDE to support Kentucky schools and their request for flexibility in state testing so that our teachers can focus on cultivating personalized learning environments that put our kids first. Operating schools after teachers and staff are fully vaccinated. So you can imagine that this guidance is going to look a little different, as the governor said, because as we return, our entire school personnel is going to be fully vaccinated. So our Department of Public Health has updated their guidance in regards to quarantining procedures for fully vaccinated staff. And this is based on continued updated guidance from the CDC. Assessing knowledge gaps because of the impact on learning from the pandemic. This is a big one. This is the work that schools do. This gives our teachers and our staff a blueprint of how to assess knowledge gaps, how to design instruction to address those gaps, and it also provides resources to support this critical work. Allowable uses of the second round of elementary and secondary school emergency relief funding. This guidance aims to help school leaders allocate this federal emergency money for schools and districts. I joined today with all of the superintendents across the state, and I got to hear about all of the plans they have for innovative initiatives that our educators are preparing for their students. I have to say that I continue to be impressed by the way that our education community is going above and beyond to meet our students where they are and to serve them. So again, all of the information that I have covered today is a highlight of a much larger document that you can find on the Department of Education's website. And this document has also been distributed out to our public schools. We know that our students want and need to be back in school, but I can also assure you that their teachers feel the same way. They want to lay eyes on those kids. They want to care for them. They want to build relationships with them, and they want to help them grow, both academically and personally, because that's why they became a teacher. So with this guidance, our main hope here is to make sure that the transition back to in-person learning is as safe and smooth as it can possibly be for everyone from the top of the school district to our smallest learners. Governor?